Hi, I'm Lenora Bresler. Welcome to the March 24th, 2017 edition of the Bible, Delight in the Details. Coming to you from Stanton, Virginia. We are in our hotel room at the moment, but we are enjoying the American Shakespeare Center on our spring break vacation, Tristan and me. You know, speaking of moving and traveling, in the Old Testament, there are a lot of references to something called household gods. And in all of these references, it is a negative reference. It is a reference to the fact that they should be destroyed. They should not be given any credibility, any weight. In fact, it almost caused a real rift and a real problem for Jacob, the patriarch of Israel, when Rachel, his beloved wife, stole the household gods from her own father as Jacob was about to leave after 14 years of working for her. It was a serious thing, these household gods. In Deuteronomy, we are told not to make any graven images, and certainly not anything that is allegedly representing a god. For God, the real God, is a jealous God and will not suffer that lightly. It's interesting that in Genesis, as they were on the move after the Rachel incident, Jacob specifically told the people, his people, in chapter 25, to get rid of all the household gods, that he was going to destroy them, and they were all going to go up to Bethel and worship the one true God. Now, what are we to make of all of this? Well, in the ancient world, most religions, most people were very, very pantheistic, meaning that they believed in a multitude of gods. And gods were often pitted against one another, and so some gods were more powerful than others. Also, gods were thought many times to be geographically challenged, if you will. In other words, when you were going through a certain country, the gods of that country would be dominant. And so many people would give some homage to the gods as they passed through, as they traveled through. One of the things that God, Yahweh, the Hebrew God, one of the things that you see repeatedly in the Old Testament is stories in which God makes sure that his people understand that he is the one and only God. And so oftentimes we see it. A perfect example is the Egyptian plagues, where God puts himself directly in contrast to and in conflict with other localized gods, and shows that he can easily defeat them because they're not real. But it was something that the patriarchs had to come to understand. When God tells Abraham, for example, that he is to leave his land and his father's house, he also means his father's gods, his household gods. He's not to bring anything, because God is everywhere. God is overpowering to any so-called God with a little g. It's something that is wonderful to remember when you are traveling, that God goes with us, and that God's territory is the entire universe. You cannot go out of his kingdom. You cannot go out of a location where he is not the master, where he is not in control. It's a beautiful lesson that the patriarchs had to learn, and that we would be well to remember today. I'm Lenora Bresler. Visit me tomorrow on the next edition of the Bible, Delight in the Details. Have a marvelous day.